Hey, so good to see everybody. Yes, birthday yesterday. Jesus shares December with me. And in our family, we have 3 December birthdays. So the order of priority is me, and me. But so good to see you guys. We're going to kick off the topic of today. So firstly, welcome to Business Connect. I'm your host, Peter Lowe. And the topic for today is how to avoid hell on earth. Now here we are, we're a bunch of Christians. Some of you watching this or listening to this are thinking either how do we cancel this guy or you're mildly intrigued. As we kick off, let me start with 2 leadership truths. Truth number 1, the number one thing your team want is progression. There's a bunch of research on this. It's not money. The number one thing your team want is progression. Second leadership truth is this. The number one thing you want as a leader is momentum. So your team want progression and you as a leader want momentum. Let's talk about the first topic of progression. In ancient Greek mythology, King Sisyphus is put into an eternal torment of hell. And what he needed to do is at the beginning of the day, he would have to roll up this huge boulder up a hill. It would take all his energy, all his efforts, all his strength and concentration to get this boulder up towards the hill. And at the end of the day, just as the boulder was about to rest on top of the hill, it would roll back down and repeat itself every day for eternity. Now, if you don't think that's hell and you think big deal, I just want to think about, remember how frustrated you got when you're working on a document, a Word document, and it crashed and you lost an hour's work. That is what it is. It's activity day after day without progression. And that is the exact situation that you provide to your team when you give them activity without progression. Now, giving your team progression is far more than pay rises, job titles and responsibilities. Creating an environment of progression is where you try and remove the daily to-dos and replace them with a system where your team can ask questions of possibility. How do I make it better? How do I change this so the likelihood of error is reduced? Now we all want our team to do that, right? And so you have to create a system and a game to be able to do that. So that's the first question to ask yourself as a leader. Whilst there's a whole process to this, and this is something that we regularly coach with our clients, just start with that thought. Pause for a moment. Think about the people that are working around you. Do they come into an ever-ending list of to-dos where yesterday is not much different today and that they don't have much hope that it's going to be different to tomorrow? Or is there a clear, systematic and rhythmic way where they can make things better? Because if they can make things better, they can own it. And if they can own it, they're going to do a better job than you and they're going to enjoy it. So that's the first topic of giving the people around you an environment of progression. To the second topic of momentum. A leader without momentum is like the circus performer who's madly spinning the plates. You know those old ones? I don't know if they do it then. Maybe I'm showing my age. But one of the circus tricks is they used to have all these plates spinning on these little metal rods. And the trick works great whilst the leader keeps spinning the plate. But as soon as the leader stops spinning the plates, they fall and there is disaster. And what's happening there is that's in a centralized leadership model where all the decision making, all the responsibility goes up to one person, which is the leader. And it's the leader where all roads lead to them. And I call that leadership model or that leadership person Rome. You're like the city of Rome where all roads lead to you. And if you're sitting right there and you're going, what is this guy talking about? You don't understand it. I am great at my dad jokes, and if you can't understand that dad joke, then we're never going to be friends. But you don't want to be that person where all roads lead to you. In the initial, you might feel important, you might feel elevated, but in the long run, you're going to stunt your growth and you're going to exhaust yourself. It's funny, you know, sometimes when I'm speaking to people and I say, oh, what would you like to see change in your organization? And everyone says the question, how do I motivate my team? How do I get them to do more than the bare minimum? But if you think about how you brought them on, it started at the job interview process. You probably gave them a job description. You gave them a task list. You didn't ever actually talk to them about how to take progression on and how to give job responsibility. So I hope those things are helpful. So if you don't have momentum and you don't have progression, then you're going to have friction, frustration, and misery. Now in your workbooks, there's a couple reflection questions around there. But just a quick start is to say this. If you want to create a life of smooth, then instead of asking questions like, how do we move faster? Or how do we get more done? Ask questions like, how do I remove the friction points? Or how am I working against myself? Maybe when you think about people, instead of saying, how do I motivate my team? Ask yourself this question. How am I demotivating my team? Because if we can create environments that are frictionless, they're smooth. We'll glide and we're going to remove those continual stop-starts. And one of my favorite sayings in business is this: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And in order for us to create a smooth life, we need to understand that not every opportunity or every problem are created the same. We've got to free ourselves trying to do everything and replace that with the quest of what is my right next thing. So no to everything and yes to my right next thing. Because no one on the planet has all the resources, time and money to live the life that they want. Now you're going, really? Okay, let's think about Elon Musk. He doesn't have all the time, money or energy to do things in the speed he wants and how he wants. There's multiple setbacks. And if he didn't have those things, then he'd have no reason to wake up to. So if you're feeling pain because you're not where you want to be, that's how it's meant to be. And there's a biblical passage that says this: hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. If you've got vision, you've got hope for the future. You know where you want to be. And if that's not your reality today, then that hope of the future that's not yet today, it's deferred, it'll make your heart sick. But the second part of the passage talks about the beauty and the promise behind that, which is this: once that dream is fulfilled, it will be a tree of life. If you're feeling pain because you want to be somewhere and you're not where you are, then that is a beautiful gift, because the only people on earth where vision matches reality are people with no vision. So if we're going to create a smooth life and we don't want to try and do everything, but we want to replace it with the right next thing, then what we want to do is, I want to suggest a great little exercise, and it's called the life wheel. And this is something that I encourage you to do now. And so what you're going to do, if you've got a piece of paper, grab a pen, and then what you want to do is draw one large circle that I've got here, split it into halves, quarters, and split it into eighths. So you've drawn a circle on the page, split it into half, quarters, and then eighths. And on the edge of the circle, you're going to write the following headings. God at the top. You see people madly getting paper, which is great. Number 2 on the second spoke, energy. So God, energy. The third spoke is health. Then growth, work, finances, friends, and family. So God, energy, health, growth, work, finances, friends, family. If you haven't got that all down, that's okay. We're going to walk through these one at a time. So if the center of the circle represents 0 and where the spoke hits the circumference is worth 10, when you think about the last 2 weeks, on a scale of 0 to 10, where would you mark your relationship with God? Is it 5? Is it 6? Is it 7? And maybe a quick share about this when we think about relationship with God. So often we think we determine relationship with God as activity. And, I was reflecting on this, and there's this passage out of Matthew chapter 7. I'm going to be paraphrasing a little here, but from the Message paraphrase, it says this: here's a time when everyone is about to meet God. And Jesus is talking the story. I can see it now at the end times. Thousands of people coming up to me confident saying, God, didn't we do all these amazing things? We cast out demons. We did all these God projects and everyone was talking about it. We prophesied, we cast out demons. And what the reply is going to be this: turn away from me. I never knew you. Because here's the rub about our relationship with God. It's a relationship. It's not a project build. Our relationship with God is not determined by the size of our impact in ministry or something else like that. And I just want to say that's just been such a humbling thing for me to think about. How am I going intimately with God? Does he know me? So on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate your relationship with God? Just mark it. So how do you get to know you've got a good relationship? You're spending time meditating, praying, asking God to speak to you, and of course, reading the Bible. Next one on the category list is we're looking at energy. So the question here, on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate your energy levels? Because you as a leader set the cap for energy within your team. If you're operating at an energy level 7, then the maximum energy level of your team is going to be a 7, but most likely it's going to be a rung or 2 down. It's going to be a 6 or it's going to be a 5. If you're a leader and you have someone working in your team that consistently has a higher energy level than you, consistently, then ultimately they're going to leave you. Why? No one wants to follow a leader who brings down their energy levels. So this is not about faking it. This is why it's so important for you to have high energy levels. And how you get there, it's up to you. For me, a little bit of golf is one thing that creates massive energy levels for me. For me to have conviction, a little bit of quiet time is something that helps me operate with conviction. And if I get to it, I can do those things. I can put those things into my week so I'm operating at a high energy level. So in the last 2 weeks, where would you rate your energy levels? So I'm saying my relationship with God, I might say I feel that's about, let's say 7. My energy level's now feeling great. I kind of feel that is an 8, and I'm just starting to mark the spoke. Next one, health. Does your day-to-day activities from a health perspective take you where you want to go? Now, maybe that's not to have a 6-pack. And the longer that you think about where you want to go, the better you're going to make some decisions for today. I'm a father. I've got a couple young kids. One of my health goals is that I'm going to be able to pick up and play with my grandkids one day. So guess what? Agility and reduced stress are those 2 big ones for me around my health goals. How would you rate your health goals? Right now, I call myself the hot Asian. Bit of middle age creeping in. Reality is I'm a bit of fat Asian. I'm probably going to rate my health goals as a bit of a 5. Next scope is around the question of growth. When you reflect back on the year gone by, what did you grow in? What did you learn? And a great exercise to do this is to think about if you had a sheet of paper and drew a line in the middle, and on the left-hand side you wrote things I learnt before I was 18. Just start building that list. I learned how to ride a bike, I learned how to read, I learned how to eat solids, I learned physics, chemistry, maths, English, Pythagoras theorem. I learned how to communicate, I learned how to write. I would write down a huge list of all the things I learnt before I was 18. Now here's the test. If you then said, what did I learn after 18? Is that list on the right-hand side equally as impressive and inspiring as the list that you created before you were 18? You know, I remember one time you talk about this topic of be committed to be a lifelong learner. And I had just finished some post-grad studies and cost a lot of time and sacrifice. And I'm in one of the last kind of sessions. And our facilitator that day is talking about the power of lifelong learning. And this is just when I felt like I'd finished something, and they were just saying how things have a shelf life. And I really hated it when I heard it. I went far out. I thought I was done learning. But now to actually embrace learning and to think about, well, what did I learn last year? And to think about, what do I want to be learning for the future? A real example, I'm speaking to you over a camera right now. I've always felt like I've been a pretty good communicator. But I knew that if I was to fulfill God's vision for my life, then this would be a skill that I would need to master. And so 2 years ago, I had a friend and mentor of mine literally drill me on camera work. He would do fake podcasts, fake interviews. This person was previously a journalist, he was a politician, and he would drill me. And he would record our sessions and he would ask and question me. It was a skill that I actually learned. Maybe the things you've got to learn aren't so much technical, but they're things about yourself, maybe about learning, about having a peace. If you're thinking back on this last 2-week period, what number would you rate yourself when it comes to growth? Just give that a mark. For me, I'm going to say 6. Now, when we talk about work, on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you rate yourself when it comes to work? Hey, just a couple things that might be helpful here. Having a job is different to building a career. Having a job is different to building a career. So on a scale of 0 to 10, this is not about how much you're enjoying your job, but more so about how are you building your career? How are you building your path to influence? When I first started working, I had a sense that I wanted to be a divisional or a company leader one day. And I knew to be a good leader that way, that I needed to be great at operations. And so when I had the opportunity to work, I thought, the way I'm built, I'm probably going to like the more sales and marketing piece more than I'm going to like the operations. So when I first had the opportunity to work, the jobs I picked were operational jobs. I used to work in a factory out at Campbelltown. It'd take me an hour 15 to drive there. I worked in quality, I worked in logistics, factories, all those types of things, because I thought that was the best environment for me to learn about process and working with a wide range of people. If you ask me, did I enjoy my job? I probably wasn't enjoying my job, but I would have marked it well because I knew the building block it was taking to my career. And maybe some of you there are not enjoying your job, but you know what? You're in the right place at the right time to build your career. So on a scale of 0 to 10, where would you rate your work right now? For me, I'm going to put in 8. Next one, finances. So maybe finances, you're thinking about that little lyric that you get on social right now, my money don't jiggle jiggle, it falls. I'd like to see it. Okay, I'm going to stop, but you get the idea. Okay, we're talking about finances. So when it comes to finances, this is far less about your net worth. This is far more about, are you operating on a path that is taking you where you want to go? Speaking to a lot of guys, maybe in the startup phase or kind of the younger generation, there are so many people I speak to where they go, I'm never going to be rich, why bother? Or they'll say this, I never have any money at the end of the week or month, so what's the point in budgeting? Here are the facts. There are a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of people on the planet that can be financially secure at retirement due to salary. So you're probably saying this, you cannot save your way to wealth. You save your way to invest, and you invest your way to wealth. Do you have a plan? Do you have some sort of financial plan where you're taking your earnings, you're investing, and you're building up that investment bucket that's going to build you up wealth? There's a couple little sayings that I say with my kids on this, and that is this. Time is like money in two ways. Once you've spent it, it's gone. Once you spend your time, it's gone. When you spend your money, it's gone. And the second thing I say to my kids is this. If you respect time just like you respect money and invest in time just like you want to invest in money, then one day it will pay you unending dividends. What's discipline? Discipline is delayed gratification. Discipline is about saying no to something today in order to say yes to something like in the future. And when it comes to money, I want to say this. If you want to live like no one else, then you have to live like no one else. Because the general population do not have a plan, and then they don't have hope. And so they just live so much in the moment that they don't think about the future. And if you're there going, this guy's a boring old hot Asian, and you're saying YOLO, you only live once, then I want to say back to you, YOLO, you only live once. So make your decisions count. So when you put finances there, are you moving in a way where it's taking you where you want to be? Where are you going to put that? For me, I'm going to say 7. Next topic. So we've done God, energy, health, growth, work, finances. I hope this is going well for you. Let's now talk to the topic of friends. I don't know about you, but the older I get, for me now, it's less about large associations and more about deep friendships. In the book of Proverbs, it talks about this, that there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Do you have a tight group of friends that stick closer than a brother? The people that say, I've got your back. You know, they talk about that you are the product of the 6 people that you allow to speak into your life. I have that 6. There's a small group of people that they're the ones that I call to when I'm facing a decision that's significant. I'll think about it and I'll give them a call and just go, can I run you by something? Just check my spirit. Is there anything that you'd want me to think about? And when I'm having those conversations, I'll ask questions like, if there was one thing you would caution me on, what would that be? Is there anything I'm missing here? What do you think? I ask these questions to invite. So when it comes to friends, what are you going to pick? Pretty cool story. About 3 months ago, I got a phone call from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in 12 years. And we caught up over a meal. And what he said to me is, he said, 2 years ago, his brother passed away from cancer at the age of 52. And he said, this year I got a blank piece of paper and I put on the heading, old friends I want to catch up with. And he wrote a list and he said, with all these friends, I'm going to catch up and we're going to have a meal. Because life is just too short to do it alone. And that's kicked off something in me, and I'm certainly trying to keep up and invest in that small group of friends that stick closer than a brother. Who are the brother and sisters to you, and where can you be a brother and sister to someone else? So when it comes to friends, mark it on a scale of 0 to 10. I'm going to say 7. Okay, family. great question here to say is your family, whether that's your immediate family, an extended family, or a chosen family. When it comes to family, are you living and operating in a way that are espousing the values of the people that you want to be with? So I'll give you an example. Every parent that I know would say they want their kids to be outward focused, not selfish, and you know what, willing to sacrifice for other people. I think most parents would say that. But when the kids are growing up in a family, what do they see in you? As parents, are you only trying to create the perfect environment in them for their education, for your benefit of your family, or do they see you living sacrificially for other people? Because your children are not going to listen to what you say. They're going to follow who you are. You want your kids to say sorry. Are you someone that says sorry? You want your kids to take ownership. Are you the one that takes ownership? You want your children not to respond out of anger and dictatorial leadership. Are you responding to them in ways that's not out of anger and not out of dictatorial leadership? Because I said so. So when it comes to family, give yourself a mark out of 10 when it comes to family. And then once you've done that, just join the dots. And then you'd probably see, just like me, that my wheel is not very round and my life is a little bit bumpy. And so if I want my life to be smooth and I understand that not every problem and not every opportunity is created the same, then I need to focus on areas that are going to create smooth in my life. And so don't look at this as a massive list of all these 10 things I want to do. If you're looking at this a little bit later and you're reflecting for the future, just for the next year, what's one thing you might like to see in some of those categories? Don't try and fix everything. Think about what is called the domino events that help bring everything about. So for me personally, my domino event is really simple. It's exercise and journaling. If I do those two things, I get a domino event to other things. You know what another domino event is? Once a week or once a fortnight, a sit-down time with my wife where we get a bit of chill time and we kind of talk about a few things, which I can talk about at a later date. But that tends to get everything else rolling. Instead of going, right, we've got to have date time with, got to have one-on-one time with my son, and now I need one-on-one time with my daughter. Instead of an activity like that, we find that when we have a couple hours over a relaxed lunch, all those things get talked about. And we go, hey, let's just put it in the diary. I'll catch up with my son and we'll do X, Y, Z. So instead of trying to do all the things, I think about the one or two big things that are going to set everything else in motion. So I hope that's helpful. In those workbooks we've got a summary, we've got some reflection questions, and we've got that life wheel to do. I hope that's really helpful for you. As we close off, can you help me with one thing? Business Connect is a no-charge resource that we just want to spread and give away and get it out there. And if you found this helpful, then just do me a favor and pass this forward. Maybe take a learning from what you've got today, picture of the workbook or something, and just post it to social. Tag myself, Peter Lowe, 100X on Insta. Tag your church. Try and get the word out there to help people bring along the journey. Whatever it is, don't consume. Give it away and contribute. You've got more to offer than you think. So as we close off today, here's to the 100X life. Here's to a life well lived. May God bless you richly. May He bless the fruit of your hands. May you know that today as you go forward, that it's not a meaningless plodding of 24 hours, but it is a day fulfilled with lifelong opportunities and potentialities. May God give you the eyes to see what's ahead, the hands to catch it, and the heart to hold it. In Jesus' name, amen.